Well, many thanks for staying with us. And in case you're joining us right now, of course, you're just in time for the big conversation here with Mr. Dennis Moria, the General Manager, Business Development at the Britam Life Assurance. A very good evening to you, sir. Of course, many thanks for making time to be with us this evening.
And thank you for having me.
Pretty much. Just for context and, to set the pace rather in this conversation, we talk about legacy planning. For an average listener out there, for, a layman out there, what exactly are we talking about when we talk about legacy planning as an insurance firm?
All right. Thank you for that question. I would say legacy planning is thinking about unfortunately, we don't like talking about these matters as Kenyans or in Africans in general, but legacy planning is about planning for life after death. So what are the things that we do need to be able to think about that time? Mm-hmm. So what are the things that we're going to leave for our loved ones in terms of values, financial assets, and how do we make sure that we plan for that eventuality effectively? So that's what legacy planning is all about. So not necessarily only involving insurance, but there are other tools around the world that you can be able to make sure that we do utilize them in legacy planning.
Fair enough. I mean, for someone to, properly, delve into it, what does, Britam do as a firm to help someone who's, want to engage in this legacy planning that you're talking about?
Okay. So,
in terms of solutions, that is.
So at Britam, we've got several solutions around which help us in terms of legacy planning. But at a broad spectrum, I want to speak about what are the things somebody can think about legacy planning. Mm-hmm. So legacy planning, to me, is not only for the wealthy, it is for every single Kenyan. So everyone is working hard to build wealth today, even you included. So there are certain things that you've acquired over time. So how do I plan for them? So we start with basic things like having a will in place, isn't it? But over and above that, you may have a family and you need to make sure that you're able to cater for their daily living expenses. Let's talk about rent, school fees. They need to eat and also live a normal life as they are living comfortably today. So you need to make sure that there's money for them at that point in time. So at Britam, we've got various life insurance solutions. And the one I'm here to talk about today is whole of life planning. Mm-hmm. Whole life insurance is where we insure your life for basically the rest of your life. It never expires. So how does this work? So you think of a coverage amount that you'd like to cover. So it depends on how much life cover you'd like to have. I would say the rule of thumb for me, I would say somebody should think about is plan for 4 years salary to 8 years salary as well. So maybe you think about, maybe for you, maybe that number comes to maybe 20 million, 30 million. And what you do is you buy a whole life cover, which you pay premiums only for 10 years, for example, or 15 years, or you only pay one off, for example. That way, now you're on cover for that 20 or 30 million for the rest of your life. And also you're able to benefit, of course, with escalations, because we do make sure that 30 million grows by inflation, at least up to 3% every year, up to the time you pass on. So if you take the cover while you're young, then you're able to leave a larger legacy for when if you unfortunately pass on at an elderly age as well. But if it's at a young age, then your family is well taken care of until they're able to fend for themselves.
Fair enough. We've talked about death. We've talked about planning for the future for your kids. But from where you sit, why is it that many Kenyans are not really interested in this life insurance thing?
Okay. From our research, I would summarize it into 4 key areas. So the first one I would say is affordability. Mm-hmm. The next one I would say is trust. Trust in the industry, and also as well as this trust in when the money is available, will it be used for the purpose I'm thinking about. The other one is around our culture as well. We don't like talking about death or planning for it. And the last one I would say is around probably awareness about what solutions or what can be done. How do you create a formal structure for these things? So starting with affordability, we do appreciate that not only in Kenya but also across the world, even currently right now, we are having let me say, high cost of living crisis across the globe, especially the high fuel prices everywhere. But also affordability has always been an issue before. My view is affordability also is something, not to think about whether it is cheap or expensive, it's also a question of, do you find value in what you are buying? Okay, is there value in it? So even today, people spend a lot on smartphones. They're high-end and low-end smartphones, isn't it? Mm-hmm. But people buy from across the range because they find value in one way or the other around it. So I think about what value is this going to be offering to me. So probably we need to create awareness around that, mm-hmm. which touches on my issue of case of awareness. And I would say probably not all solutions fit everyone in every category. People need to think about what do they need to focus in terms of protecting. So maybe even whole life may not be appropriate for everyone, but there are other solutions that we do have as well. All right? But we can talk about those ones later. Culture, it's an issue of you don't talk about death, or we think the community will take care of us. Let's say like immediately after death, we're usually very good with WhatsApp groups and we can fund and take care of a funeral. But what exactly happens afterwards? Your children still need to go to school, there's still rent to be paid, and there's still food for many years going onwards as well. So those are the factors that we do need to make sure that we do address. We also talked about trust before even I forget about it. So also I would like to admit that there is a shortage of trust in the insurance industry. And that's one of the key things that I want to come here and debunk here as from a Britam perspective, but also holistically. There are also many other good providers as well. So to make sure that clients do understand what they are buying, so that when it comes time to making a claim, they're very clear about what they've purchased, and they get the benefit that they did pay for. The other trust I would say that we do have a challenge with is around now when the benefits, since life insurance is not for you, the person who receives the money, let's say, to support your child, are you sure they'll be able to manage those funds effectively over the next maybe 10, 20 years for your child, for example? So we also at Britam, we've been able to address that issue by creating trust funds where this money can be put in and managed for your child. And we make sure that the trust fund pays for the things that are important for the child. So if it's daily living expenses, education, rent, and all those support services as well that are needed as well. So that now you're able to make sure that we address everything from end to end for our clients.
Fair enough. You've talked about, I don't know whether it is an African culture alone where we don't want to really talk about death. But we've had instances where someone was employed, unfortunately they die, and they leave behind families, and they leave behind children who are supposed to go to school, who need to get food, to get proper shelter. But at the end of the day, the kids they left behind struggle because nothing was left behind for them. For Kenyans out there, there's a Kenyan out there who's probably never convinced that I need to take this life insurance. What would you tell them today?
Okay. I would tell them, okay, one of the key things that we see is that there's a lack of appreciation about what life insurance is. Life insurance is not for the person who goes and buys the product and pays for it. It is for the people you love and who depend on you. Those are the people we want to make sure that are protected, those children. And what you're doing is making sure there's a very clear plan and structure to make sure that they're able to be supported even when you are not there. And one of the two important things that I want to make sure that happens is the money goes to the people you want it to go to. So they're well taken care of immediately. Two, it reduces the issue of legal disputes. Maybe, for example, if you didn't have a will or anything else, the money goes directly to them. So with the life insurance, once you name a beneficiary and you say it is, for example, you, no one can contest that. The money goes straight to you immediately. No legal issues, no fights, no nothing. So that's one of the key things that we need to make sure that's one of the important aspects around it. And that's how you can be able to build trust. If you've got confidence that you're not too sure about which provider it is, I think come and test our reputation. See what are we doing today and last year And you see a firm like Britam has a reputation of paying its claims on a regular basis. And you can see which other lives you've been able to impact. So that's how I would say that's the approach I would tell you to go around and test who is the best provider to provide you such benefits as well. Yeah.
Pretty much. With the current economic situation, and you talked about affordability, things are not, really good at the moment, and many families or parents struggle with paying school fees, ensuring that their children are well clothed, ensuring that food is available. With all this, why should legacy planning still matter?
So, as they say, in life there are two certainties, death and taxes. As you are planning for today, though it may be painful and a struggle, I would say it is important to look at what can I still set aside something small to be able to plan for that eventuality. And also probably there's a myth that life insurance is very expensive. So if I have to give an illustration, for example, in terms of whole life insurance or other types of insurances, there are various products. So for example, if I wanted to insure myself for 10 million, for example, yeah? All right. So if I wanted, the premiums would largely even range around, maybe let's say 3,000 to 4,000 shillings per month for let's say like 10 years. That amount of money would not get to the 10 million if I paid it for 10 years, okay? So if it's 3,000, you'd get times 12, that would be what? 48,000 times 10 years, almost 500,000 to 1 million shillings at most you'd be paying, depending on your age. So to me, that is a no-brainer in terms of making sure that I have effectively protected my family over the long run in terms of this particular benefit. So it is not too expensive when you think about, you take a big picture, a step back from a big picture perspective. So that 3,000 shillings is probably something you set aside from what you are maybe saving in your savings from 10,000 shillings before.
Okay. Now, when you talk about this whole life plan, and of course, the Britam's whole life cover, looking at it from the perspective of, trying to compare it with other, life insurance products here in the country, what exactly is, the difference? What exactly are you offering more that people cannot get from the other life insurance products offered by other, firms?
Okay. So in terms of life, let me put the categories that we do have. So for example, Britam is well known for education policies, yeah? So those ones help you plan for paying school fees at a certain point in time, let's say for high school or university. So it helps you save the amount. So whether you pass on or survive, you'll have the money at that point in time. So that's one type of insurance and savings hybrid product. That is one type. Then you've got another one called, let's say, term assurance, which helps you provide cover for, let's say, only 10 years. It is cheaper than the whole life, probably by, let's say, 50%, for example, because you're not being covered for your entire life. So that's another option that is available. So let's say the same 10 million cover, whole life you're paying 3,000 shillings per month, maybe for the term you're paying 1,500 shillings per month. So those are the various types of options and combinations that we can give you. If you want a payment at the end of the term, there's an option for that. If you want to cover for the rest of your life, we have that option for you. If you just want to cover within a limited period, and that helps you save certain on premiums, we have that option available for you.
Pretty much. When you talk about the whole life plan, and again, going back to the issue of affordability, can, for example, middle income earners afford this particular plan?
Yes. So in fact, our premiums start from as low as 3,000 shillings per month. Yes. For covers of starting off from up to 5 million shillings. So I think people can be able to plan effectively around that. And then what I would say is start with what you can right now. And you can always upgrade, have an annual review of your financial circumstances. And maybe within 3 years or 5 years, your circumstances have changed and you can afford to say, save another 3,000 shillings per month and get an additional 5 million cover. So you can buy multiple policies and upgrade over time. So you don't have to start with, let's say, like the big picture of what I was talking about, 30 million shillings. Start off with 5, start off with 10. In 5 years, buy another policy for 5 or 10 million shillings as well, yeah? So that you're able to build that pie that you do want to leave behind for your family.
So you're also telling even the young generation, the youth who are working out there, regardless of the job that you're doing, you can start, with the little that you earn, with the little that you get.
Yes, in fact, the beauty of life and health insurance, when you're young, the premiums are low and cheap compared to somebody who's much older. So if I have to give even an example, assume as you start at 20, someone who buys a policy at 20 years old compared to somebody like me who's 40, the premiums will probably be twice or 3 times that of a 20-year-old, because 20-year-old has a longer lifespan compared to someone who's older than, like myself, for example. So they'll make considerable cost savings. They can start small, and eventually, every young person will grow old. They will have family, they'll have dependents, they'll have people they love more than themselves, and they'll need to take care of. So, yes. So I'd say, you're capable, start early.
Pretty much. When you talk about this particular plan, Mr. Moria, we've talked about death, but there are other issues that might happen along the way. If someone becomes ill, if someone is unable to work, the question would be, how or can they, be assured of their families being protected under such circumstances?
All right. Oh, good. No, that's a good question. So, with the Britam Whole of Life plan, it does have amazing additional insurance benefits, and there's some which you can be able to add on and enhance. So let me give an example. So there's one for disability. So in case you're disabled and cannot be able to perform the job or earn a living through the various skills that you have, for example, then you'll be able to get the premium waived, and you'll get a benefit at that point in time. So that's one of the key benefits. So even someone highly skilled, let's say, for example, like a surgeon, they cannot be able to do that, then they'd enjoy the benefit even if they can do other things, because the skill they had was a surgeon and they cannot be able to do that. Another benefit is critical illness, or what we call, in other jurisdictions, is also called terminal illness. So, for example, if you need to go through a major organ transplant, or you get cancer from stage 3, stage 4, for example, or you have a stroke, we do have a payout equivalent also to the sum assured, and then you're able to address that particular issue that you have. So that's quite important. And then even on top of that, you're able to get your main benefit when the time comes as well. So the legacy planning also continues as well. So the lump sum at the point of death will still be paid in addition to these other insurance benefits. For like critical illness, you may need to buy some things to make sure your life is comfortable in the short term. Now, if it's not an illness that catches up with you, and it is an issue of you've lost employment, you're not able to keep up with the premiums, then what we have is an option where you have a reduced sum assured in proportion of the premiums that you paid. So, for example, you reached year 5 and you've only paid 50% of the premiums, isn't it? So then your cover will be reduced by 50%. So if you had 20 million, then you'll be on cover for 10.
Okay.
Yes.
Pretty much. One of the issues that we have is the issue of, families or guardians even passing wealth from one generation to another. The question would be, how does this whole life plan with Britam make that process of passing wealth from one generation to another, and even security, how does it make it easier? Talking about the process.
Okay. So when it comes to normal wealth transfer, for example, let me talk about, let's say, like your vehicle or house or property. If it is in your name, then those assets now go into probate. That means now, if you don't have a will, so the laws of the land decide how your assets are distributed. So someone has to go to court and appoint an administrator is appointed, and then they agree on how your assets will be distributed. So that is a lot of uncertainty, can be subject to many legal disputes, and may take time. Okay. So that is what happens with such assets. If you have a will, then even if it's constructed in the right manner, then the assets will be transferred as per the terms of what you've decided on the will, especially if it's agreed it is valid. Other options, for example, is having a trust, okay, a trust fund. And now you need to set up a trust fund, and the assets continue to be managed for the benefit of the beneficiaries, which you can decide it is your children. The beauty of a life insurance product, whole life or others, is now you name a specific beneficiary, and the money is transferred to that beneficiary once they come to us. So usually it's a good practice to make sure that you have your policy documents somewhere with all your other documents, your will and other title deeds and everything. Also good to speak to it, tell them about it. So when the time comes, they can reach those documents. Or if they don't have the documents, they can still come to Britam with their ID and say, so-and-so has passed on, and I am one of the beneficiaries. We'll validate that with our records, and we'll pay you immediately. So initially that takes less than 5 days. Yes.
They say an average Kenyan out there will never lack an opinion about, whatever thing you're talking about. And sometimes there are, issues regarding to even life insurance or legacy planning. What are some of the misconceptions out there in regards to these two things?
Okay. So I think the first misconception, let me say even about insurance in general. People think of insurance as like a bank account. I put in money there, and I should be able to get it out whenever I feel like it. So, but insurance is not an investment. It is for protection. Okay, it protects what you have. So, just like that, if your motor vehicle, it's to make sure that you can drive comfortably. In case anything happens, then you are well protected around that. So insurance is protection. I think that's the first thing, not investment. So bearing that in mind, then your expectations around what the terms and conditions are and how you'll benefit are very clear. Actually, for me, that's the biggest one I would like to say would be the biggest misconception. And so that now we don't see insurance companies are thieves, for lack of a better word. But yes, that's the biggest one.
You see, the young generation, I don't want to say the young generation because I'm part of that particular generation at the end of the day, but when you talk about life insurance, the young people would sometimes say, why do I need to do it now? I'm still young, there's a whole life for me to live. The question would be, at what stage in life should someone start considering this legacy planning?
Okay. So I'll say yes, 50-50. I was young once, and I do agree from a practical point of view. So if you're young and you don't have dependents or people who depend on you, let's say a spouse and child, especially those are more critical. But okay, if you do have parents, but I'm assuming life will continue on a normal length, isn't it? Yeah. So you don't have dependents. Then I would say what you need to be focusing on is, let's say, for example, planning for retirement or shocks or in your life. So saving and investment should be more your priority. Okay, building the wealth. Now, when you get to a stage where now you have dependents, you've got a spouse and children who depend on you. And this doesn't matter, it could be a man or a woman. Either way, these days, 2 family incomes are critical, all right? So both of you coming together is quite important to make sure that the family succeeds and achieves their dreams. So for both parties, come in, have life insurance so that you can be able to make sure that whichever one of you goes, the family does continue with the dreams and vision that it had. So there are certain goals. I want my children to go to university in these specific universities. We want to make sure that we have a home in this particular area. Those dreams are the ones that I'm saying you do need to protect, especially at that point in time. So when you have that major life stage, rethink and recalibrate, because now a lot is at stake. It's not just about you. There are others who depend on you significantly.
Pretty much, we're almost coming to the end of this conversation, but how can young professionals, young entrepreneurs begin building a financial legacy, even if they're just, even if it's in, the early days of their careers?
Okay. Just also saying, so not necessarily thinking about life insurance, is also investments, retirement planning, and savings. So, for example, at Britam, we've got many other solutions. Come and invest in, for example, our money market funds and build your assets around there. Okay. We also have got other longer-term unit-linked life insurance products, which do provide you the mix of insurance protection and savings as well. Come and invest in those ones, or retirement planning and pensions. That's a hot topic in the industry right now, and that's quite critical. That one is something every young person should begin from the day they start making money, because at some point you will turn 60 or 70 and the energy to work like you were in your 20s will not be there anymore. And of course, these days everyone is living much longer. So like you, I expect you to see your 90s at this rate. So that's a long time. So, and you should never live longer than your money, I would say.
Okay, you've talked about savings, and this is something that is also, dear to my heart. And my mom, I know she's watching, she's always like, even when I just got a job the first time, Ian, make sure you save. Saving is very important. We live in a generation where, savings is not a big deal. They don't really, consider it to be something really important. For a young person watching out there who is not really interested in saving, and probably when they get their money, they just think about, buying the things that they wish to have, doing their hobbies. Why is it important? Why should they start saving?
Why should you start saving? So I would even say, at a rule of thumb, even if you're in your early 20s, mid 20s, whatever you spend in 3 months, make sure at least you have that saved somewhere. For the simple reason, there are always emergencies. Let me put, for example, if I'm taking a Matatu from point A to point B, and I always know it is always 50 shillings, 50 shillings, 50 shillings, does it mean I should always carry 50 shillings exactly? Or 100 shillings for going and coming back? No, I need to make sure I've got something like 200 shillings, because something could happen. It could rain and the fares double. If you've got a car, you may have a tire burst and you need to replace it instantly, So those small things do creep up. You may need to have a small medical treatment done if you don't even have medical insurance, or maybe because your cover does not maybe cover that because it's not something extreme. You may break your glasses and you used your insurance for this year, isn't it? So first, it's about emergency money and having, let's call it working capital for life. Yes. But then after that, it's planning for things that you need to do. At some point, you'll want to say, buy a vehicle, for example, isn't it? Save for a house, buy a plot, and other things that you may have in terms of what you have in terms of your life goals. So have clear life goals and have a plan to achieve them. And saving will definitely be one of them. And then, of course, to make sure that you maximize on your savings, have investments where you get good returns. So to make sure your money is earning zero in a bank account. Make sure it's getting you 10, 12% at least per year.
Pretty much. Finally, I mean, there's so many Kenyans watching this particular conversation right now. How can they start their, legacy planning journey with Britam's all-life cover today?
We've got many options available to you. So if it's legacy planning or even savings and investment, please SMS us at 21778 or write to us at customerservice@britam.com. or call us on 0705 100 100, and or reach us out in our socials. You'll be able to get us there. But also, more importantly, you can support. We've got our financial advisors everywhere, all over the country. Call them, engage them, and they'll give you more details, and they'll come to you wherever you are.
Pretty much. Of course, thank you very much, Mr. Dennis Moria, for, of course, joining us this particular evening to talk to us about legacy planning and why it is important to also say, I must say, I'm inspired by that. And of course, again, like I said, my mom is watching. I am serving, and of course, I'm considering joining Britam because I'm pretty much convinced by your submissions here. But thank you very much for making time.
All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. On that note, we just take a brief breather here on KTN Prime. We'll be back with more. Do stay with us.